Well, greetings. My name is Greg Clur. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Faith TV. It's good to be with you. And really the reason why I'm with you now is just to talk a little bit about Faith Cares and some of the things that will affect you as it impacts our South African revenue services, SARS, as we affectionately know them. I just want to talk a little bit about what we call Section 18A tax certificates. Very importantly is to understand that an entity like Faith Cares is very unique in terms of the South African Income Tax Act because it allows us to give our donors a certificate acknowledging not only receipt of the donation, but for the particular donor, they're then able to deduct the amount that they give to us for tax purposes in their personal tax return. And that would apply if the giver is an individual or even a business, a company or a trust. So there are definite advantages. Now these advantages don't really extend to things like tithes and offerings, but they do apply to any giving that comes to Faith Cares specifically. And it's for that reason why you will notice that we advertise the bank account of Faith Cares. It's a separate bank account to the remainder of the ministry's bank accounts, because what we do is we make sure that we can account for those donations carefully that come into Faith Cares, and for the reason that we're able to give the certificate. One of the problems we do have, it's a very practical problem, is that some people give by electronic funds transfer, which is automatic and it's direct into the Faith Cares bank account. But the problem that we have is that we don't have all of your information, and because of that it becomes very difficult for us to issue the Section 18A tax certificate without trying to get contact with you and to get that information from you. SARS have come up with a system nowadays where, just like the way a bank sends you a tax certificate showing you the interest which you may have earned on your bank account, and that automatically pre-populates in your personal tax return, well, the same thing is where SARS is going relating to Section 18A certificates. So if you give money to Faith Cares and we issue you with a Section 18A certificate, we now have to electronically upload that certificate onto the SARS website, and they will automatically pre-populate your tax return showing that you made this donation to Faith Cares. And a lot of public benefit organizations are going to be in the very same position and having to do this. So what is the problem? Well, the problem is that in order for us to issue that certificate now and to pre-populate your tax return, we have to have sufficient information. And I'm going to take the opportunity of just reading to you from a SARS publication of what they require. They require the nature of the person giving the donation. Now, if you're an individual, then it would be an individual. You're a human being. But obviously, if it's a company or a trust, that's a legal entity. So we would need that information, who is actually giving the money. And then the identification of that person. Now, if you're an individual and you live in South Africa, it would be your South African identity number. If it was a trust or a company, then it would be that registration number of that entity. We would also need your income tax number, and we would need your contact telephone number, and we would need your email address. Those are very, very important. Obviously, if you're a company or a trust and you have a different trading name to the registered name, we would need to know that as well. And it seems like we're asking for so much information, and it's a bit of an imposition and an inconvenience. And it is an inconvenience, but I'm afraid the way SARS is moving now, we don't have an alternative but to comply with what their requirements are. If we're unable to get this information from you, we're legally not able to issue the Section 18A certificate. And we want to be able to issue the Section 18A certificate because it's in your interest. As I said before, because you can deduct it for income tax purposes. There are some limitations around how much you can deduct, but for general purposes in this discussion, let's assume that everything is tax deductible, and that's, for the most part, is pretty true. what you're going to find is that there's going to be communications coming to you from FaithCares requiring this information, either because you've made an electronic funds transfer and we don't have enough information from you in order to issue you with a certificate, or you have not provided us with all of that information. And so we are making efforts to make sure that our website is properly adapted in order to be able to capture that information when you give to FaithCares using the website portal. Or if you have signed a debit order, we will be corresponding with you to make sure that you do give us this information so that we have it on file, so that there's no impediment to us issuing the certificate in an expedient way to you. But definitely, if you have given money via an EFT, an electronic funds transfer, we will need to try and get into communication with you. Now, the difficulty there is that if you've not given us a contact number, or the reference that you put on your actual transfer doesn't show any information, we're just unable to get hold of you. And for me, this has been a difficult thing, because over the years we've had funds sown into FaithCares, but there's no ways that we can identify who's given the money. So that can be a little bit awkward, and I encourage you, if you are going to give by EFT, please make sure that you give us some information in the reference so that we're able to make contact with you. We would love to communicate with you. And lastly, I just want to say that, we celebrate every person that does give into FaithCares. We understand the biblical reason for doing this. Jesus encouraged us to look after the widows and orphans and to look after the poor. They will always be with us. And it's our heart. That's what we do. FaithCares is very focused on doing this. So we just celebrate for every single person that partners with FaithCares. Thank you for what you do. We do not take it for granted. And I can assure you, we do our best to make sure that whatever comes in gets stewarded correctly and gets to the people who need it most. I bless you in Jesus' name.